every single game matters. 2-0, 2-1, all of it matters in the event that this does end up as a tie. And as we've seen, they both got the same record against both of the other teams in the group. So Spain and Netherlands pretty evenly matched on paper here.
The definition of evenly matched. So let's have a look at these two players. I think we mentioned a little bit about them before, but we'll now have a look at some of their achievements and their teams. So we'll be starting off with Juan here, who, as we see, top 32 at the Barcelona special event and at EUIC this season. EUIC last season. Top 8 in 2 special events in previous seasons as well, in Utrecht and Bilbao. So, like you said, some very, very notable placements both online and in person. And his team looks like a pretty standard hyper-offensive team. We've seen this 6 or similar a fair few times before. Anything that stands out to you on this team sheet?
Not really. This is a pretty standard assortment of Pokemon at this point. The Flutter Mane with Booster Energy and no Icy Wind is a little bit interesting. It's going to be interesting to see whether that's special attack boosting or speed boosting. Generally, we do see speed boosting with the Flutter Mane, but that's also usually to take advantage of that speed boost for speed control with Icy Wind. So the lack of Icy Wind kind of has me thinking that it might be special attack boosting. But this is really one of those teams that's going to be looking to hit hard and hit fast. We've got the Tornadus there, Tailwind. Juan's going to want to end this game in 4 turns.
Yeah, and we also see Fluttermane not the only thing that can Terra Fairy on this team. We see Arcanine running that Terra Blast Terra Fairy. Now, Arcanine will often run Terra Normal Extreme Speed, but Terra Fairy Terra Blast is also something we see relatively commonly. You see the Terra Blast taking the place of maybe a Head Smash. So that's an extra threat for something like an Iron Hands that would potentially be a threat to the rest of this team.
Yeah, personally, I've been using a fair bit of Choice Band Arcanine, and I've used both sets. I do think that the Terra Fairy one just gives you a little bit more versatility, especially into things like Iron Hands, and also just a good defensive typing into a potential Double Dark King Gambit. Not something that we're going to be seeing today, though, as we can take a look at Robbie's team in just a couple of seconds as well, which I think is a little bit more on the interesting side. It's still nothing too crazy. But the Chi-Yu has Fire Blast, which is not something we see every day.
Yeah, it just feels like a little bit of a tuned down overheat. So you lose a little bit of power and a tiny bit of accuracy. We'll see if that comes into play at any point. Feel like
trade-off being that you can fire it off multiple times, which is...
Yeah, exactly. So you don't get that big special attack drop from the overheat. So maybe you miss a couple of KOs, maybe you miss a couple of Fire Blasts, but you can do it over and over again. And Robbie is one of those players who you said has recently moved up to the Masters Division, following off the back of a finalist placing at Worlds this last year. So very, 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 very strong seniors player. Definitely can't go, oh, he's just come up from seniors, going to be an easy win. You can see there a couple of international top 8s, the VR April Challenge top 8 as well. So it's a very, very standard team, but I think a player of Robbie's caliber piloting a standard team like this is going to be very difficult. And we do see that Iron Hands, which, as you mentioned, could be a bit of an annoyance to the opposing team. Are there any Pokemon you think from either side that are going to be particularly pivotal in this matchup?
I do think the Iron Hands is going to be very, very pivotal here. When we consider the fact that Juan's team has a Tornadus, an Urshifu, an Arcanine, a Flutter Mane, and a Chien-Pao, there are 5 Mons that could theoretically just get one-shotted by this Iron Hands. Of course, a lot of things that are going to apply pressure to that Iron Hands as well. Offensively, the Flutter Mane, the Arcanine as well, and Rain Dance Urshifu can also do quite a lot of damage to that Iron Hands. But I think that's really going to be the pivotal piece of Robbie's team here. And for me personally, I'm also just going to be interested to see how this special attacking focused core of Bundle Chi Flutter Mane is going to perform, because Regulation E is generally considered to be an extremely physical format. There's really not that many special attackers that are considered when building teams right now, so to have 3 of them packed into one team could provide a little bit more of an interesting dynamic into this set as well.
Yeah, it definitely mitigates some of the impact of maybe that Intimidate on Arcanine on Juan's team. And like you said, very, very scary. There is the Assault Vest Rillaboom that can normally take on Iron Bundle and Flutter Mane, but then Chi-Yu deals with that. A lot of things like an Iron Hands that would normally deal with the Iron Bundle Chi-Yu core doesn't really want to deal with Flutter Mane. So it's a scary trio. But this team also very, very offensive. As you said, these 3 very powerful, kind of squishy special attackers. This is going to be a quick set, I think. Even if it goes to 3 games, I reckon it's probably going to be quite fast.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine.
The better of this.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine either of these teams being able to take it particularly particularly long. Even if we do end up in a bit of a positional back and forth where they're both trying to position their offensive pieces for a couple of turns, I would be shocked if we saw the 3-minute warning pop up in this match.
I have seen that 3-minute warning 3 times already today in my own set that I played this morning. And I wouldn't be upset to not see it again. So we're going to see the lead off here, Amoonguss and Chiyu on the side of Robbie into that Arcanine and Fluttermane on Juan's side here.
That looks like special attack as the boost on the Fluttermane as well. Something worth keeping in mind that is not going to be quite as strong as, a choice specs Fluttermane, but it's still pretty close. It still has that Terra Fairy as well, so ways to make sure that it's dishing out even more damage. This is an interesting lead for Robbie as well. Amoonguss and Chiyu both were fun to get very threatened by that Arcanine on paper, but the Chiyu could well be faster. It's running a Life Orb. Dark Pulse may be able to KO the Arcanine if it doesn't Terra, and of course Amoonguss threatens a big Spore here.
Yeah, the Amoonguss is a little bit scary here. Robbie, I think, looking to play it a little bit slower with the Amoonguss, maybe with the Iron Hands in the back as well, saying, okay, you've got No Bulk, I've got Sun Bulk, I'll try and leverage that myself. See a lot of Protects coming out on turn 1. Shadow Ball hits that Amoonguss Protect, and now Robbie able to scout for what move this Arcanine has locked into with that Choice Band. Because as you said, the Arcanine does threaten both, but for example, if it locked into a Flare Blitz to try and take out the Amoonguss there, Amoonguss has the Terra Water. If it clicks Rock Slide, maybe you can Terra Ghost the Chiyu to get rid of that weakness. So Robbie now with information on what the Arcanine is going to be clicking this next turn.
Yeah, this is an interesting spot as well, because knowing that the Arcanine is locked into a move that is not going to KO the Amoonguss one way or the other does add a little bit of a dynamic of mind games to this potentially, where it's like, oh, does he switch out the Arcanine? And it looks like that's what Robbie's trying to capitalize on, an attack going into that Fluttermane.
And the miss on the Chiyu! Oh, that's a big miss. Banded Rock Slide, I'm pretty sure would pick up a Chiyu from there, but instead the Arcanine misses the attack and goes to sleep. The Spore coming out from that Amoonguss. As Robbie not getting much value out of that turn, just a Dark Pulse there, I think it was, going into the Fluttermane's Protect, and the Spore hitting the Arcanine. Now, that Arcanine not putting any pressure on, it's taking a nap. We see the Shadow Ball coming out for Fluttermane. Amoonguss taking big damage there.
I'm honestly a little bit surprised that it takes that double up with Chiyu on the field, but that Amoonguss is putting in some work on the bulk side of things. Looks like Heatwave coming out, dishing out solid damage to that Fluttermane, but is this just another Spore, Buenti?
It feels like it's going to be another Spore. I feel like when Amoonguss is on the field, it's most likely going to be another Spore, and now this is 2 Pokemon asleep on Juan's side. This Arcanine could maybe wake up this turn, get something done, but I think we saw in the previous turns the Chiyu is slightly faster than the Arcanine, so it's still under a lot of pressure. We see the Amoonguss switch out now with a bit of Regenerator healing next time it comes in, and in comes the Fluttermane from Robbie's side, looking to capitalize on now what is a strong offensive position.
Yeah, I feel like Dark Pulse probably does pick up the Arcanine here, and we're about to find out. Yeah, that is a downed Arcanine. That Arcanine, I think, does have a fair amount of bulk, looking at the HP stat on it, which is interesting, but after having that chip from the Heat Wave, no chance of living that. And a basically unpunished switch into the Fluttermane for Robbie here is... This game's going about as well as it possibly could for him.
Yeah, I think those Spores from Amoonguss, like you said, really putting a lot of work there. So that was a guaranteed sleep turn on Fluttermane, which means that Robbie is free to launch that attack into the Arcanine that is next to it, and free to bring in that Fluttermane, who is now threatening with its own big choice specs attacks. And interestingly, Juan's Fluttermane we know is special attack boosting, so that could potentially give Robbie some information. That puts a maximum speed stat on the Fluttermane. So Robbie could say, I know my Fluttermane's faster than you here, and now I'm going to start attacking.
Yeah, with the threat of a Tailwind, though, I think Juan has correctly identified that his only way out of this game is a turn 1 wake up. He's going to go for that Terastallization. If the Fluttermane stays asleep, there's basically no way out of this for him. But we're about to find out. Tailwind comes in. That is going to make sure that the Fluttermane is faster. And does it wake up? I don't read Spanish. It does wake up! Moonblast comes on in. There's no shot this survives, right? Down goes the Flutter.
Oh, Fluttermane down. Okay, this is still going to be a big attack coming out from the Chiyu, but Juan saying, look, I need to wake up this turn. And he does. We see the Fire Blast coming out now, taking out that Tornadus. Robbie saying, I don't need Overheat. Fire Blast is plenty enough damage coming off with this Life Orb. But
One question,
that is now...
I mean, the Rillaboom in the back is going to neuter any potential fake-out pressure from an Iron Hands here. Amoonguss comes back in. No choice lock on this Flutter Mane is actually really big for Juan right now, because with 3 turns in Tailwind, I guess the Tailwind doesn't even really matter for the Flutter Mane at this point. But the Rillaboom's going to be able to outspeed Chi-Yu. It's going to be able to, for this turn at least, fire off a Fake Out. But it looks like it's probably going to be a double protect here from Robbie to kill that Fake Out turn as well as the second turn of Tailwind.
Yeah, Robbie again opting for that double protect. This time not to scout, but just to stall out a turn, as you said. But there's still a lot of threat here. Amoonguss can't redirect an attack from this Rillaboom. And Chi-Yu's not the most physically bulky Pokemon, so there's a good chance that a Woodhammer here might pick up a knockout. Depending on how these Pokemon are trained. I think the big thing here is whether or not Juan's Flutter Mane will pick up the Amoonguss from this range. And that grassy terrain healing from the Rillaboom, I think, might actually work against Juan here, pushing it just a little bit outside of the range it needs to be in.
I wonder if the play is to go for D-Gleam and hope for... looks like the D-Gleam is going to come out. I was wondering if a double into the Amoonguss was by hoping for a crit, but we have Juan going for the guaranteed kill here on the Chi-Yu instead. I do like that play. Chi-Yu goes down, but I believe it's nap time again, Blenty. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, this Flutter Mane's looking awfully sleepy, and there is the Spore coming out. Flutter Mane going to sleep again, another guaranteed sleep turn. And I believe the last turn of Tailwind as well now. So, a strong position for Juan. After that, he identified, if I get this turn 1 wake up, I can pull myself back into a strong position. Sorry, strong position for Robbie, I meant to say. Juan identifying that he could try and pull himself back in with that turn 1 wake up. But the nap again now is a little bit dangerous. But it's Iron Bundle who comes in here. So Robbie has a choice to make. Robbie has a choice to make. He can try and double protect through the last turn of Tailwind here. Because Rillaboom is not going to go down to a Freeze Dry here. You don't want this Iron Bundle to take a Woodhammer. We do see the Protect coming out from Iron Bundle. And are we going to see the Protect from Amoonguss? No,
I think the Amoonguss is going to go for Pollen Puff here to try to put the Rillaboom into range for Freeze Dry, which is a really neat way to play this out. I like... Oh, he's actually just going for the Pollen Puff into the Flutter Mane instead.
A little bit of chip damage into the Flutter Mane. That's going to be mitigated immediately by the grassy terrain, almost entirely. This is a tough spot, though, because the Tailwind does run out, but now Flutter Mane can wake up this turn. So Juan very much... Yeah, Juan is banking again on getting a wake up this first turn. If Flutter Mane wakes up here, I don't think Iron Bundle can take out the Flutter Mane if it doesn't go for a Hydro Pump. And if it goes for a Hydro Pump, famously that move is notoriously good at not hitting opponents.
Yeah, I'm also wondering, I feel like with the Assault Vest instead of Miracle Seed, Woodhammer probably does not pick up, but the Hydro
And the Hydro misses! Oh, revenge for that Rock Slide miss earlier on in the game, but Flutter Mane stays asleep again. We see the Woodhammer coming out. Does that pick up the Iron Bundle? It does! Even through the Terastallization, even through the Terra Ghost, that KOs the Iron Bundle. And now it's down to 1 Amoonguss. And I think, even though Amoonguss, one of the strongest Pokemon in the format, it's strong for its defensive capabilities and its support capabilities. I don't think it's going to pull this back from this point.
I don't think so at all. And a really, really unfortunate turn of events there. I thought that Robbie was in an amazing spot, but the bundle being Pokemon number 4 really made his life tough. The Terra there, obviously a good way to try to get around that Woodhammer damage. Even if the Iron Bundle has no bulk, Woodhammer is still always a roll there. But, yeah, it's not going to be enough this time. The Hydro Pump miss, and I think, honestly, the Hydro Pump miss matters less because of the Woodhammer roll coming in and getting the bundle KO. But, yeah, a rough endgame there for Robbie.
But we will see now how these players adjust into Game 2 now. Are these misses going to come back? Or are these Pokemon going to put on their glasses, get their act together, and start hitting some moves? We see Tornadus and Arcanine is an interesting lead here. This Iron Bundle may still outspeed Arcanine if the Tornadus goes for Tailwind, depending on how these two Pokemon are trained. The Flutter Mane not putting on too much pressure, I don't think. The Arcanine, though, Rock Slide and Flare Blitz are both doing big damage to both Pokemon here.
I really like this play out of Juan. The Arcanine in Tailwind is not going to outspeed that bundle. We just confirmed with the Woodhammer KO that there is no bulk in this bundle, so it is going to be the full 309 speed. Arcanine will not be outspeeding it, but it will outspeed a Specs Fluttermane. Even after Icy Wind, probably? I guess that's the question, right? But I don't really see the bundle going for Icy Wind here, unless he's hard reading the Terra, which, this is actually a really interesting turn. There's a lot of moving parts here, and there's a lot of ways this could play out, but Juan is going directly for the offensive play, just going to try to dish out massive damage with the Rock Slide.
Well, I think a lot of the time these hyper-offensive matchups, when you get two really aggressive teams playing into each other, a lot of it does come down to who gets that turn one correct, who gets the initial momentum. And so we see the aggressive play from Juan with the Tailwind, and now it comes down to who's targeting what from Robbie's side, what do the speeds look like. We do see the Icy Wind come out, and now this speed on Fluttermane is going to be very, very important.
Let's find out.
Who's going to go first? It's Flutter going first. He hard reads it with the... And Arcanine 6 HP! Double connect the Rock Slide! Iron Bundle surely... No, Iron Bundle lives!
Wow!
It doesn't take a Wood Hammer, but it does take the super effective Choice Banded Rock Slide from Arcanine. What a crazy turn there. And now the speed control is all in Robbie's favor.
Yeah, it's not a Covert Cloak Tornadus, so we did see the speed drop come in on Torn. It's not going to outspeed that bundle. This is now a very rough turn for Juan. Robbie took a lot of damage there, but he has that speed control through the Tailwind. I guess the other question is, if you do get a double KO here, you still have to deal with the back Mons that are getting 3 switch-ins with 2 turns of Tailwind, so it's... I feel like we're in a similar situation insofar as that was a really good turn for Robbie. But
yeah,
things could still become very weird depending on what's in the back here.
That's true, but with only 2 turns left on Tailwind, we've potentially got an Iron Hands with Fake Out in the back. We've got Protect on this Iron Bundle. Robbie, I think, has ways to get through these last couple of turns relatively unscathed. And that depends as well on what Juan even has in the back, because if it's some slower Pokemon, which it's not, in fact, it's a Chenpao and a Fluttermane. I was going to say the Iron Bundle could outspeed them, but these Pokemon are going to outspeed Iron Bundle under Tailwind. So there is a lot of offensive pressure still.
And just appreciate the absolute, like, crazy turn 1 read. You're down 1-0, and you click 2 not very effective moves into this Arcanine as a hard read into a player as good as Juan. That was a very, very impressive read by Robbie. I just wanted to highlight that one more time, even if it didn't quite pick up the KO. The HP stat on that Arcanine that we can see being at 191 coming in clutch, but Icicle Crash is going to connect here. That's going to be able to pick up this Pokemon, and the bundle is going to go down as well. So, 1 turn of Tailwind remains. 2v2 here going into turn 3, and we're going to have to see what Robbie has in the back.
This sure is hyper-offensive gameplay. And Robbie there Robbie making a conscious choice to say, I don't want to protect here. I do not want to protect my Iron Bundle. Clearly thinking now, the last turn of Tailwind doesn't matter. His back end is Iron Hands and Amoonguss. So Tailwind is not really making any difference there. He'd rather just get both of these Pokemon on the field at the same time, which is a stronger position than having a low HP bundle instead. And Robbie, importantly, still has the Translation. I have to think this is going to be a Terra Water on this Iron Hands, as it is. And now there's Fake Out pressure on the board from Iron Hands. There's Heavy Slam pressure into the Fluttermane. There is Drain Punch pressure. Iron Hands is going to be big here, I think. Protect on the Chenpao.
I kind of almost don't hate no Protect on the Flutter, but it is just going to be a safe Protect there to kill off that Fake Out turn. This is another great opportunity for, like Juan's choice of not going Specs on this Fluttermane has paid off in dividends in both of these games so far. We're seeing just a really, really nice ability to be able to protect on those important turns, not get locked into a position where if you had Fluttermane in the back after that sort of turn 2, where you had to just bring in 2 free Pokemon, being able to lock a move and not knowing your opponent's back 2 Mons, or being forced to lock a move, puts you in a really rough spot. But Juan being able to just freely take the KO and know I can just reevaluate whatever comes down out here is very, very nice for him, and also being able to protect through that Spore turn. But this is going to be a very, very interesting turn. Does the Crash pick up on the Amoonguss? Is it an Adamant Chenpao? The Amoonguss survives! That's gigantic.
That is a big lift from Amoonguss. That Citrus Berry, not going to save it from the Shadow Ball here. honestly, I don't think Shadow Ball's going to be too threatening into the Iron Hands regardless, but Iron Hands now has a free hit. Likely, I would expect a Heavy Slam into the Flutter Mane just to pick up the KO there. Because Iron Hands is always... Yep, there's the Heavy Slam. Iron Hands, I'd say it's got a pretty positive matchup into Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao's only out into this matchup normally would be praying for Icicle Crash flinches, but with the Terra Water, that Icicle Crash is not doing very much, so you're going to need a lot of Icicle Crashes.
With twice as many.
Yeah.
That's pretty okay.
Oh, you're going to have to hit a lot of Icicle Crashes.
Oh, there's the first
There's flinch number 1. Okay. The problem is, as soon as you don't flinch, Drain Punch is getting all of that health back.
Yeah.
We see a Lash Out, was that? Or Sucker Punch?
I think that was Sucker Punch, yeah.
But Drain Punch is just going to get all of that HP back. Juan needed a lot of flinches there. That was the benefit of the Terra Water on Iron Hands, making it resist that Ice-type move.
Okay.
And
he has an out. He has an out here.
There's a chance.
First step, flinch on the Iron Hands.
But then the next step is also flinch on the Iron Hands, but
Yes,
we don't
once.
even get step 1. It's a lot of steps, and they're all the same step.
But that's going to be it for game number 2. Robbie does clutch it out with that Iron Hands in the back. Iron Hands showing that, indeed, he didn't show up to game number 1, and that's the one Robbie lost. So I maintain that Iron Hands is the most important Pokemon for this matchup for him, and Iron Hands does come in clutch there. So that is an option for Juan to try to play to a position where you remove the Iron Bundle and then just don't have to have one of those slots dedicated to that Tornadus.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this works. I also think the Arcanine in the back end could be a nice adaptation, keeping that Intimidate on the board, keeping that Flare Blitz. We are just going to see a really aggressive lead again from both players now. Flutter Mane Tornadus threatening that Iron Bundle with a lot of damage, and we see Iron Bundle Chi-Yu from Robbie's end. Obviously, again, just threatening a lot of damage. It's 4 big special attackers and a lot of speed control. I'm expecting a lot of KOs very quickly in this game.
Yeah, this is another one of those awkward situations where, the specs not being on the Chi-Yu, for example, is really, really big here, because this is the specs Chi-Yu, then it's a super free Tailwind Moonblast into that Chi-Yu slot for Juan, but both of these Pokemon having Protect opens up a lot of mind games here, and the Flutter Mane also having Protect also opens up quite a lot of mind games, as Flutter Mane does immediately opt for the Protect. No Protect coming in on the side of Robbie. And just straight Tailwind here. Nothing to take advantage of that Tailwind, just Tailwind coming on out. And that's going to allow a free switch-in from Juan. I think that might be what Juan was going for, in fact.
I think, yeah, that free switching could be very nice here. We see the Protect from Chi-Yu, as you identified with that booster energy. On this team, you don't really want to switch your Flutter Mane very much anyway. You're very much holding forward for most of the game. So that booster energy coming in very clutch. Big damage output still, but keeping that Protect. And now we get Arcanine in for free. This Flutter Mane is, as you said, going to be fast in this Iron Bundle most likely. So a Moonblast here probably picks that up, and then it's a Rock Slide into Chi-Yu potentially as well. There's a lot of pressure now from Juan's side. Like you said, that KO puts Robbie a Pokemon up, but it also potentially puts him in a bad position.
So the obvious play here, which is what we saw Juan hover over, is just Rock Slide D-Gleam. It easily picks up both of these Pokemon, but it's also easily exploitable with a switch. Something like an Amoonguss is going to take that very, very easily, and even the Iron Hands is going to take it pretty easily. Instead, Juan opted to Flare Blitz what he thought was an Amoonguss switch-in, and there are no switches coming out of Robbie. So this is about to be a very interesting turn, as the bundle protects. Does this pick up the Chi? I feel like it probably still picks up.
It probably still does. Chi-Yu is not. He's a little bit squishy. He does a lot of damage. He doesn't take a lot of damage. So we're going to see the doesn't come out here. Banded Flare. This definitely picks up from here. There's no way this lives. Surely, yeah. Okay,
and
Chi-Yu
now, locked into Banded Flare Blitz, that does mean that this Arcanine is not forced to switch out to reset to a better move or something. It's not going to be stuck Rock Sliding and Iron Hand switching. This gives Juan a lot more options going into the back end of this game.
It does give more options, but at the same time, this is a tough position because there's a threat of Fake Out into the Flutter Mane and just Hydro Pump into the Arcanine. But we're going to see Juan try and circumvent that with a switch into the Rillaboom on a potential Water-type move. Rillaboom didn't come to the last game, I believe. So Juan may be saying, I don't think Robbie's going to expect this to be here this game. We see the Protect from Flutter Mane coming out to protect against that Fake Out that we're probably going to see from the Iron Hands. Because Flutter Mane, having used that Terastallization, is now vulnerable to that Fake Out. So the Fake Out going into Protect. And Iron Bundle is going to go for the Hydro Pump, is going to connect it this time. But this Penguin picked the wrong Hydro Pump to land. I think Robbie would have much preferred that one missed and the one in game 1 connected instead.
This is going to be an interesting turn as well. There's only one turn of Tailwind left, so if the bundle can be retained, it will be the fastest thing on the field. Assuming the last Pokemon is an Amoonguss, Icy Wind is not going to matter all that much. But Iron Hands goes for the switch out here. Looks like Juan wanted to pick up that Iron Hands easily, but it's just going to be a double resisted hit here. The Amoonguss is going to be switching into, I believe, Wood Hammer as well as a Moonblast. It's still going to do a pretty sizable amount of damage, but with the Citrus Berry, I think that the Amoonguss is going to be pretty healthy at the end of this turn.
It's definitely going to survive. This is the biggest damage that Juan had into that Amoonguss, correctly identifying the Protect from Robbie on the Iron Bundle and saying, okay, I'm just going to take as much damage as I can into this slot. It doesn't matter what you switch into, this is the most damage I'm going to get. Unless he wants to hard read, like very hard read a Shadow Ball into that slot. So, but as you said, this Amoonguss is still almost on full HP and now threatening that Spore. So it becomes a case of, do you want to switch something in on this Terra Fairy Moonblast in the Iron Bundle slot? So Iron Bundle is not going to be able to KO this Flutter Mane here, so Moonblast into that slot, unless Robbie goes for double protect, likely getting a knockout on either that or the Iron Hands that could switch in on that slot.
Yeah, Protect, of course, also an option on the Flutter Mane, so you have to wonder if the Amoonguss is perhaps going to read the Protect and try to go for something else, like maybe switch in the hands and side Pollen Puff to try to eat a Wood Hammer. But I feel like that would be an overread at this point. I think Robbie just needs to try to get the Spore off on this Flutter Mane slot. If it protects, it's not attacking. That's fine. Just go for the Spore and try to clean up with that Iron Hands.
And we're going to see a Terrestrialization here. I'd guess on the Amoonguss. I don't think Terra Ghost necessarily... Oh, actually, no, it is on the Iron Bundle. Maybe scared of a Grassy Glide. We saw the Wood Hammer pick up in the last game. So, a very reasonable chance that Grassy Glide would pick up this Iron Bundle as well, if it did not Terrestrialize. We do see that Protect on the Flutter Mane. We'll see who targets what here. We're going to see a Freeze Dry into the Rillaboom, doing a good chunk of damage there. Just over half. A U-turn off the Amoonguss. So we're going to see this last Pokemon come back in. I believe it was that Arcanine who will be returning to the field. And Amoonguss has a chance to maybe make a read here if it wants to, or it could just Pollen Puff. But I think I agree with you. Most likely this is just going to be Spore into the Flutter Mane.
Well, it is going to be fascinating.
It is.
Nope, it's not going into that Arcanine. Terra Ghost on the Iron Bundle is a really interesting play because I feel like you almost always want the hands to Terra here to get rid of its weakness to Fairy and just, you know, to not just die. But looks like Robbie is valuing the bundle as his primary win condition here. E-Speed's going to come into the Amoonguss. I don't know if that's enough. It's going to... Oh, it is Shadow Ball.
Yeah, Shadow Ball, yeah. That'll pick it up.
It probably picks up. Okay, yeah, so... Yeah, being Terra'd on the bundle here a little bit spooky. It's not Specs, so I would imagine the hands probably takes a single Moonblast here, but not very well.
I don't know with the Terra Fairy. And there's also the option here for Juan to switch this Arcanine out into Rillaboom to get around a potential Hydro Pump, get Fake Out on the field, and we will probably see a Protect from the Flutter Mane here just to get around that Fake Out yet again. I think both players are playing a little bit more passive than you'd expect them to with the teams they're running here. I think if you're Juan, obviously you're still in a good position now, having gotten rid of that Amoonguss, but you could have also taken out the Iron Bundle last turn if you'd wanted to, just to force in the Iron Hands, get the Intimidate down early. And then that turn as well, Robbie going for the Protect on the Iron Bundle when there was potentially some offensive pressure it could put on there into the Arcanine. So I think in both cases, a little bit passive. We see the Extreme Speed come out. No Fake Out from the Iron Hands. We're going to see the Hydro Pump come out into the Arcanine. That will definitely pick up. 4 times super effective. No doubt that time. Robbie's Iron Bundle not missing that one. Probably a Heavy Slam here. I don't know what move that was. It went into the Flutter Mane and it didn't do anything because it protected.
Yeah, it was
Interesting
a good
to
play
see
there
no
by
Fake Out
Juan.
there.
I think Robbie really needed to go for the read there. Like if he reads the Protect, you could just go Fake Out Hydro Pump to remove the Arcanine. But with that additional damage coming in from that E-Speed, there really should be no chance of this Iron Hand surviving a Moonblast, which means that
you need the freeze.
Yeah, it's going to be a KO on the Rillaboom here. It really should be a KO. Oh, wait, Dazzling Gleam.
That's a Dazzling Gleam. Ooh.
Actually, I guess, yeah, it gives you
I guess if you glide,
to walk the game right now.
Yeah, if you go for a Grassy Glide here, it's fine. Or Fake Out. I think either works.
Because like I don't think this picks up the bundle, does it? It's no bulk, so it might.
No Bolt, but no Chiyu either.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one. I personally in that position, I don't know my booster
attack
calcs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know my calcs there. I personally probably would have just gone for the what am I saying? Moonblast. We'll see if this Dazzling picks up. We are going to see an Icy Wind here, which doesn't quite pick up the Rillaboom, so still the threat of Grassy Glide in the field next turn. So even if this Dazzling doesn't pick up, I think the Grassy Glide will be enough to take out the Iron Hands. We're going to see the Dazzling Gleam come out. Iron Hands does survive. Bundle does go down, though, and that is going to be the end of the game, this Iron Hands.
Whew.
A bit too slow to pull it back from here. Obviously, going to flinch this turn, thanks to that Fake Out, and now there's the threat of Grassy Glide or Woodhammer and Moonblast from the Flutter main. That's going to be wrapped up in Juan's favor.
A very read-heavy set there. We saw some really interesting. I really liked the lead that Robbie went for in game 2 specifically. Like that hard read was just like a really impressive thing to witness. But I think we also just saw the importance of spreads in this set. That Arcanine surviving the double up read on turn 1, even though that was the game that Juan ended up losing, really shows the value of putting bulk into the Pokemon, and also the bundle going down to a Woodhammer despite Terraing also shows the value of a bulky Iron Bundle spread potentially.